A strong NHL winger is very important for any successful hockey roster. Without strong wing play, teams will have a hard time competing with defenses and getting pucks to the net. Today, let's take a look at some of the best wingers in the NHL and rank my top 10 that are currently playing in the league. Now, this is based on previous seasons, potentials, and projections, so don't comment based solely on this year's stats because some players might be having a good year, but for me, consistency is key. Now, before we get started, I make daily NHL and hockey related content, so if you haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure you do that now, and let's get right into it. Look, ask me this question last year and you may have gotten a different answer, but from what I've seen this season and the level of consistency that this guy continues to maintain even at this stage in his career, I have to give the number one spot to Nikita Kucherov. Kucherov has 4 100-point seasons in his career, a 2-time Stanley Cup champion, Hart, Ted Lindsay, and Art Ross winning 30-role player that in this season he has 105 points in 62 games, on pace for the best of his career. This is still prime Kucherov. He's a beauty on the power play and single-handedly is carrying this Lightning team into the playoffs. He has a 14.9 shooting percentage and has 42 power play points. You may be able to argue that someone else deserves the top spot, but you can't argue that there is another winger who has been more dominant for this long. To me, Kucherov deserves the number one spot, so that's where I'm going to place him on my list. At number 2, I'm going to take David Pastrnak as my second best winger in the NHL. Pasta last season had his true coming out party with 61 tucks and 113 points for his first 100-point season with the Bruins. Pasta is on pace to break that 100-point barrier yet again on a Boston team that seriously lacks top-line centers. Pasta is a beast on the power play, pulls out crazy moves at any given moment, and has the ability to launch the puck from any area of the ice with that shot. Without Pasta being this caliber of a player, this Boston team would be lost, and his personality is just an added bonus to an already sound game. What's not to love about Pasta? He is hands down a top 3 winger in the NHL today. Call me crazy again with this next pick, and maybe some other names deserve to be above this player, but for me, Artemi Panarin has to be mentioned in the top 3. Panarin is the type of player that just elevates his line mates in every way possible. The Breadman casually has 80 plus seasons every year, and nobody considers him to be a top winger. It's the craziest thing. In the past 2 seasons, Panarin has logged 96 and 92 points, and this year he may just reach that 100-point mark if he keeps up this good pace. The Breadman has a shooting percentage of 15.4% this year, has 32 points on the power play, and I firmly believe he is one of the best dishers in hockey. I think Panarin gets underrated because he has been given a large contract and the winning just hasn't been there with the Rangers, but that's more of a team issue and less about Panarin and his game. He's clearly doing his part every year with the points that he's putting up, and I have Panarin in my top 3. I just feel like he's the type of winger that I want on my team any day of the week, and I feel like he does get a little bit underrated in this league. Next up is a player that just has that dog in him. What can't Mathew Tkachuk do? He can score with the best of them, dish beautiful apples to any player anywhere on the ice. He's got silky smooth mitts, and oh yeah, he's one of the biggest pests in the NHL and really knows how to get under the opposing team's skin. Matty just does it all. Now, production-wise, in terms of points, Tkachuk is having a down season compared to last year, but it seems like the scoring has been distributed more evenly through the Panthers roster this year, which is better for the team and has helped them get more wins in the regular season so they can be more prepared for the playoffs, not putting so much on Mathew Tkachuk as one person. But for Mathew Tkachuk, points mean a lot less because the edge that he brings to the game is just indescribable. Tkachuk has a low shooting percentage this year with a 9.6% on the season, and this is something that will even out, so come playoff time, expect Mathew Tkachuk to start putting more pucks in the net. Mathew Tkachuk has earned the 4th spot on my list, but I can see why some people would have him higher than Panarin. To me, these two are pretty much tied at number 3, but hey, ties are no fun, you have to pick one over the other. Another instance where I wish I could take 2 players at the same spot because I feel like they both deserve it, but I have to maintain the integrity of this list, so in this spot I'm going to place Kirill Kaprizov at 5. Kaprizov is such a fun, dynamic player to watch. I firmly believe Kirill just doesn't get enough attention for how well he's performed since entering the league. 2 back-to-back 40-goal seasons with one 100-point season a few years ago, and this year he has 66 points in 55 games played, averaging over a point per game. Kaprizov really elevates the level of play for the Minnesota Wild, a 14.9 shooting percentage, 30 power play points and averaging 21 minutes of ice time a game. Kaprizov has proven himself to be a true star for the Wild, but he is held back a bit by injuries over this season and the last, which is why his stats are a bit lower than the earlier stages of his career. Regardless, Kirill Kaprizov makes my top 5. He's a dynamic goal scorer and a strong winger, and I love him in this spot. This is the other player that I went back and forth to place at 5, but at number 6, I'm going to take Jason Robertson. Robo had a coming out party last season, breaking the 100-point barrier, and like Tkachuk, he's having a down season, but mainly because there's more consistent team play from the Stars, similar to the Panthers, where the teams are just getting more evenly distributed points from all of their players. Robo has a high-end scoring touch that is hard to come by in wingers, and may be on one of the most team-friendly deals in all of hockey, making $7.75 million over the next few seasons, which is a huge bargain for the Dallas Stars. Like I said, Robertson is having a down year, averaging about a point per game, which is not really a down year if you think about it in the long run, but with the Stars having 7 players with over 40 points this year, I think that Robertson and the Stars are emphasizing team play this year and have their eyes set on winning a Stanley Cup with this roster. Either way, I love Jason Robertson and I'm going to take him at 6. Next on my list is just an absolute horse on the ice, Mikko Rantanen. Rantanen maybe deserves to be a bit higher on this list, but there's just so many good wingers that it's really a toss-up, and you could rearrange most of these guys on this list and put them in any spot and feel content. Rantanen has been so good with the Avalanche, averaging a 100-point pace for over 3 seasons and scoring 50 goals last year. Rantanen is just a natural goal scorer and a great power play resource. He usually averages around 30 to 40 points a year playing on the power play 1. Moose has been averaging 23 minutes of ice time this season, and last year in the postseason, he averaged a goal a game against the Kraken before they were knocked out. Rantanen is doing his job and is a consistent number 2 on this Avalanche team beside Nathan MacKinnon. I think the sky's the limit for this player, and he deserves a top 10 mention. In terms of raw talented playmaking, I think Mitch Marner has a similar game to Panarin. What I mean by this is the strong passing ability and zone awareness that he possesses. Marner almost fits the mold of a center more than he does a winger with his play style. He's a pass-first winger with a very strong two-way game. Marner has had 2 back-to-back 90-plus point seasons and is on pace to do it again this year. I think people overlook his skill because he's just surrounded by so many talented players that it's hard to stand out on your own. But for me, I value a winger like Marner because he impacts all facets of the game. Marner is disciplined in his game, he doesn't take a lot of penalties, he's composed, unselfish, and puts his team first, which makes for just an all-around quality star player that any coach would want on their team. Lately, Marner has really been working on his defensive game and has been up for a lot more Selke awards over the past few years. I still think he's an elite player, and I think Marner deserves to be in the top 10, even with all of the hate that he gets from Toronto fans from time to time. Close right behind Mitch Marner is his teammate William Nylander, who just earned himself a bag this season. Nylander is having a fantastic year in Toronto. He has 83 points in 61 games played and is on pace to shatter his previous season high 87 points in 82 games played from last year. What's not to love about Willie? He had a career high in goals last year with 40 and will likely pass that this year, so you know he can find the back of the net and is a natural goal scorer. He has some confidence and swagger on the ice, and this allows for other players to gain space because he requires so much attention from defenses. Nylander has to share the stage with a lot of great players in Toronto, just like we talked about with Marner, but don't let this fool you. He's a very strong winger that is great at transitioning from defense to offense, can pass with the best of them, and like I said, he knows how to put the puck in the back of the net. Nylander easily belongs on any top 10 list and deserves the bag that he got from Toronto this year. Last but not least, this one's a surprising one. You may have to be patient with me as I explain this. This one is Matt Barzal, and before you say, oh, Barzal is a center, let me explain this one a bit. For the majority of his career, he's played as a center. You're right. But for this season, the Islanders have been placing Barzal on the same line as Horvat, who's been playing center for him while he plays on the right wing. And in my opinion, I think this is the best thing the Islanders have done for Matt Barzal since he started playing with them. Barzal has been underperforming really since his breakout year back in the 2017-18 season. That was the only season in his career where he's had over 20 goals, and since then he's barely been able to even make it to 60 points in a season, which is underwhelming for a player of his caliber and potential. However, this year the Islanders finally decided that maybe they need to adjust, and boom, they moved him to the wing where he's now thriving with 64 points in 59 games played. Barzal's strength is in his passing, and this is why he's more of an assist player and fits well on the wing with a center like Bo Horvat, who's more of a goal scorer than he is a passer. Placing Barzal on the wing allows him to manage his game in new ways, and I think it's really opened up his game a lot. At his best, Barzal will not crack a top 10 centers list, but as a winger, I think he deserves to be mentioned here. Now, like I did in my last video, there's a few honorable mentions here that I think I need to list because they deserve some love on this list. Brad Marchand, Clayton Keller, Jake Gensel, Zach Hyman, Kyle Connor, Brady Tkachuk, Patrick Kane, Mark Stone, and Alex DeBrincat. They all deserve a nod and were considered to be in my top 10 list. And I'm sure that there's more guys out there that deserve a mention, so comment any winger that I may have missed and let me know if you want a part 2 ranking wingers from 11 through 20 on my list. But this is my top 10 NHL wingers list today. Like I said, this is based on career performances, not just based on the season they're having this year. Make sure you comment what you would change about my list and what you like. Like this video, subscribe to the channel. I will see you guys in the next one.